This is Baselworld. This is where the top names in the watch industry come to unveil their new creations and set the trends for the entire year. With over 1,500 brands, Baselworld is a huge production, and the whole world is watching. Some of the brands at Baselworld have histories that go back centuries, even before the creation of the first wristwatch in the 1800s. And these brands have given us some of the most iconic and influential timepieces. So Perlé has been around since 1777, which is insane. Tell me a little bit about the history of the company.
Perlé is the inventor of the automatic movement, not in a watch, but in a pocket watch. And all along, Perlé has been a great watchmaker. 30 years ago, Perlé starts again with the automatic movement, of course, and the double rotor.
Right.
The rotor on the front of the watch, so it moves, so everything at Perlé moves on the dial. So we show people about the automatism in the watch.
Ah, easy. So tell me about the watch I'm wearing. What's about this?
So this one here, you have a rotor, and it turns, you see it turns,
right.
okay?
Yeah.
And that is rewinding the movement. What we call it peripheral rotor. And if you take off the watch, I show you in the back. When you look at the back, so it's actually an automatic watch without rotor in the back.
Right.
So you see the movement in the back, and you're not hindered by the rotor turning all the time. So you see a watch moving and living.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So
it's good.
that's typical Perlé, and this is something you will not find in any other brand.
So, do you have any, like, what drove you to be in the watch industry? Why did you want to be part of this?
Well, luxury. Luxury, precision, design, elegance, all this. I love luxury, not because it's expensive, but because of the design, because of the creativity. This is what I like. And this is why I like watch business, because you can afford this, you can wear this. Not like a car. A car, you can't have 10 cars. Where do you put them? Where watches, you can have 10 watches in your drawer, you know, it's fine. And they're not so expensive all the time. So it's kind of great business to be in.
So Omega is a household name for luxury watch brands. Tell me a little bit about what Omega stands for, what the brand DNA is.
That's true. I mean, we've been around, of course, a long, long time, 1848. And all of Omega's history has been influenced and dominated by this mission statement from day one, that our job is to make the best possible watch movement out there. I think that is, what Omega is now. And also, we decided to make the brand a bit more trendy, in the 90s, and get associated with like Cindy Crawford. And of course, we cannot forget our good friend James Bond, who, which was fantastic. And they came to us. People don't know that.
Really? So they came to you?
They came to us.
Because you and Bond, Omega and Bond has gone real back like...
It's 25 years now, easy. So, when they wanted to revamp the image of Bond in the early 90s, they looked at this and they said they think that Omega would be the right watch. One, because being a commander in the Royal Navy, British Royal Navy, the chances are he would have worn an Omega Seamaster. And back then there were not many blue watches, so they chose the Omega Seamaster Diver Blue back then. And since then we've been with him. And so it's really been fantastic.
But I mean, how important are, you've got Eddie Redmayne is the...
Yep, our new ambassador. Yeah.
Right, your new ambassador for the...
Glowmaster, the one you have on your...
The one I'm wearing.
The one you're wearing, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about this watch first, and then...
Okay, this watch I think is new, although it's inspired by Omega's history in a very, very strong way, with the fluted bezel, with the pipe and dial, and the look and the size and everything. But this watch was chosen to really be our flagship model, to launch our new master chronometer. And of course, this is going to be the flag carrier, and the rest will follow.
And I just one final question I just want to know: is there any Omega watch that you are really attached to?
No, I still think that the watch that when I first joined Omega, just before the moon landing in '69, I remember that watch. And when you see that same watch today, okay, it's a bit worn, but it's the same watch.
Yeah.
I think that's what's unique in this business that we're in, that we can, I can't imagine myself taking a pair of shoes from 1969 and putting them on,
You probably wouldn't want to.
Wouldn't want to, exactly.
Yeah, that'd be a bad idea.
I think that's what's unique about this business.
So tell me a little bit about the history behind Zenith.
Well, Zenith is a manufacturer 150 years old. Basically, Zenith is about performance and the timeless design. Value through the years, timeless. It's why in our communication we are speaking about vintage. Vintage is not about nostalgia. Vintage is about authentic. And it's why when you enter, you probably notice that we have a barber shop and a shoe polish. So vintage is about also pleasure. It's about freedom. It's why we are doing Cafe Racer, the vintage bike. People want to be free, in this world. And basically, classic cars is also the same kind of direction. I'm not speaking about investment. I'm speaking about passion of the people.
And one of the things when you talk about having the past but moving forward, I mean, the El Primero.
That's the iconic.
Right, the iconic watch. So how do you keep that watch but move it forward? And I mean, we're both wearing El Primeros, right? Is that
exactly?
Correct?
And
right.
If you put both El Primero together, I'm sure that they will be very surprised that in fact it's the same movement, because it looks totally different. The shape of the case are exactly the same, but here you have a classic. Here you have very modern kind of watch. That means you can use, when you have a good base, you can use the same base and make evolution. Of course, in terms of performance, we do also improve our movement. But for people who knows chronograph, El Primero is an iconic movement. And it's getting very personal, because I don't want people to buy Zenith. I want people to buy their Zenith. So they have to add a special touch.
And so what we want to know about is, how does it, like for you, for instance, how did you get involved in watches?
Well, it's several things. First, I have Italian roots and Italian love watches. So I was always, as a consumer, very interested by watches. And because I live in Switzerland, I had the chance to work for watches, but it was by chance. It's just enjoyable. Could you imagine? I mean, we have the chance to bring dream and absolutely unuseful product to people, but it's so necessary. That's great. I mean, you want to just have people pleased and happy.
Definitely. So far, we've been looking at watch brands known for their history and heritage, but now we'll move on to brands that are inspired by sports and architecture. And though these watches look great, they don't cost an arm and a leg. So tell me a little bit about Alpena. Give me like a little bit of what the brand DNA is.
Alpena is the inventor of the modern Swiss sports watch.
I read that from 1938, right?
1938.
So what made that the first sports watch?
Well, it was actually the first watch which had 4 criteria. So anti-shock, anti-magnetic, water-resistant, and stainless, which still today, still the real criteria of a sports watch.
And why did Alpena make a sports watch in 1938?
So the founders of Alpena, they were alpinists. So remember, the culture of our country is the mountains, so sport was done in the mountains. That's why they chose the name, alpena. And their mission was to create the ultimate sports watch for our kind of environment.
But tell me about these. Like these are, I can see that these are obviously kind of diving inspired because the bands are very like rubber sort of.
Correct. So this year, being the theme diving watches for alpena, we come back firstly with our replica of our original diving watch. It's a watch from the 1960s, you see. And then we have our new models from the Sea Strong collection. The diving watch has to be very readable through the turning bezel. So this is, 300-meter water-resistant watch, see-through back. So very high quality, but still at a sensible price. In euros, it's 1,195 euros.
Right. Do you have any watches that you keep forever that you've had, that's your old favorite? Do you have like an old favorite?
Well, of course, like a lot of people, I got my first watch at 18 when I graduated. I still have that piece. Sometimes I pick watches I like, of course Alpenas, but also other brands.
Yeah.
But let's not mention other brands.
Okay,
but the only thing I can say is that there's nothing more magic than picking up a very ancient watch and then realizing that it works. Either, if you move it or if you turn the crown and suddenly it comes alive. And that is so emotional. There's the heritage in there, and in fact there is life in there. It's living objects, and that's what gives the emotion.
Nicholas, what am I wearing this year?
This is an automatic movement with a silicone balance spring. What does it mean?
Yeah, what does the silicone do inside?
Alors, silicone means you have a more stable product during the year in comparison with the stainless steel balance spring. And it's very, very exceptional that you have a silicone balance spring in this kind of product at this price mainly. We are less than 1,000 Swiss francs.
What does the price point for a silicone balance spring normally?
I think normally it's more than 2,000.
Oh wow, so it's like less. It's like half. Oh, that's great. And of course you've got a ladies version of the watch.
Yes, of course we think about lady because often the handbag you have a magnetic to close the handbag, and you lose your precision with the standard watches. And now with silicone for ladies, you can open your handbag. You have any problem, it will be precise for the future.
That's why the silicone is more.
Yes.
It's not affected by any fields around it or anything. It's always. Oh. So what else do we have? What else is new this year?
Now we are official timekeeper for NBA, and we are sponsor for each team. Means we develop some product for the team. This is, for example.
Oh, the Knicks.
It's for the Knicks, yes. Or maybe this one, the red and.
Who is it? The Bulls.
And we have some other product for NBA, but it's not for team, it's just for NBA, like this T-Touch. Right. With a very nice case back, remind you like a medal when you win, with the NBA logo.
That is really nice on the inside. So I just have to ask you a sort of personal question, but how did you get into watches? Why are you so passionate about watchmaking and timepieces?
It's quite easy to understand for you. I'm born in the watch.
You were born inside a watch?
Yes, exactly. No, and in fact, I'm living in a watchmaker area. Means all my friends, my family work in the watchmaker. And after, I tried to find my way in the watchmaker. Fortunately, I found Tissot. And I developed now from more than 16 years. And the best part for my job is the design part.
Right, because it's
from the design to the production. After, it's not really interesting.
So that's crazy. So you have a passion. So you're from a long line. Like your family was all into watchmaking.
It's like an heritage from the family. Yes, it's right.
Yeah, that would make you passionate about watches. Tales of time. So tell me a little bit about Mito, the brand.
Mido is a brand offering watches between 700 to 2,500 Swiss francs. We are specialized in mechanical watches. Mythos stands for high quality watches, very precise, elaborated movements, timeless design, inspired by architecture.
Right. And so what's new in 2016?
This year we celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Baroncelli. We produced a new line, the Baroncelli Heritage. And for the first time we are using a caliber 2892, which is very slim.
What's the, how thick is it?
Less than 7 millimeters.
Less than 7 millimeters.
And only 50 grams. So, you know, for an automatic watch, is amazing.
Oh yeah, it's very light. And so what is this piece? It's in its own special box.
So last year, we invited 3 professional watch designers to do a watch inspired by the Big Ben in London. Today, here in Basel, we show the finalized watch, which was winning the contest. Here, this part is very small, but it's exactly a part taken out of the building, which was integrated here. And this watch is a limited edition of only 500 pieces worldwide. And I would say it's definitely one of the most exclusive pieces Mythos ever produced.
Do you find yourself emotionally attached to some of the models that you've made over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I have one particular line. It's the All Dial. It's a collection inspired by the Colosseum. It was a big success, and I have a diver model. It's probably 15, 17 years old. On every vacation I put it on, it works perfectly, and I still think it's a very cool piece.
So that's your like comfort piece. That you're like you always go back to that. It's like,
let's say it's a very meaningful piece to me.
The Swiss might be the most famous for their watchmaking, but there are many incredible watch brands that aren't Swiss and put out a timepiece that is just as incredible.
so tell me a little bit about like what makes a Moulay Lesotho timepiece a Moulay Lesotho?
At first, I must say it's our DNA which we have in the city, because Closet is the famous place for watch industry outside of Switzerland. And now, if you look in this time, our DNA is to produce an instrument. It shows you the time very clear and very fast, and so it has the possibility to show you information very short and very exact.
Moulay Lesotho. They have a history with search and rescue, correct?
Yes. Since 14 years now, you have on this wall, you have the big picture of the watch and also a jacket of the rescue guys. And at the first, when we had this cooperation, we said to them, oh, we can do for you a watch with 24 hours and this and this and this. It's bullshit, because when we go out and the ship is shaking, we destroyed our watches on the wall because the ship is shaking. He said, what we need is a watch which you couldn't destroy it.
Indestructible.
And
watch.
yes, and in the night we need a good illumination that we can read the time. So, and that's the way. If you look to the design, the sapphire glass is 4 millimeter thick, and this one, and believe me, you couldn't destroy it with your human power. It's not possible. If yes, then I will give you as a present. Okay. We will really develop with the people. They want to use this watch. The model, you know, so
right.
Then we are on the right way.
Right, so you make something that they can use, like you say, what do you need, and then you make it, and then that's where the relationship comes from. So since the company is so much a part of your family history, is there Is there a piece that you would pass on to your son?
Yeah, this is the SRR rescue timer, because this is our face, you know. I think you couldn't find this design in any another brand. And this is really where the people say this is a typical Mühle watch, you know. So it makes me proud of my company, of my employees, and of all the guys which are with us.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's terrific. So Seiko has been around for a lot of years. Do you have any great stories from Seiko's past?
Yes, my favorite story is the Great Kanto earthquake occurred in 1923. And then it destroyed 1,500 pieces of clock and watches the factory received from clients. And it was destroyed.
Oh.
Yes, by the fire followed the earthquake. So our founder, Kintaro Hattori, put it in an advertisement in the newspaper, and then they offered the new products free of charge.
Oh.
And his attitude attracted a great deal of the general people.
Wow, that's cool. That's a good way to recover from that. So tell me a bit about the quartz revolution and how it impacted the luxury watch market.
Okay, it lifted the brand awareness of Seiko drastically as a brand which enables the people in the world to possess the watch with accuracy at a reasonable price. Also, based on that technology, we developed our original techniques such as kinetic, spring drive, and world-first GPS solar.
So what other innovations past quartz has Seiko pioneered, and what are the innovations this year for 2016?
Seiko GPS Solar watch is one of them, which we introduced 2012, and this year we have a new model. And this year also we have launched a tourbillon based on the ultra thin movement and the urushi lacquerware and Seiko's own metal engraving. It's a masterpiece of craftsmanship.
So Seiko has so many watches. Do you have a favorite that you just love?
There is no one special. I have several watches which I treasure. In my company life, I have carefully selected watches and purchased them, and since after that the watch is always with me. So whenever I look at the watch, I remember the time when I bought that watch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Timepieces are more than just dials, crowns, and hands. The best ones tell a compelling story too. And there are so many stories at Baselworld that ironically, there never seems to be enough time to get them all in. Now in the next episode, we'll be looking at some interesting independent watchmakers and the big boys of the industry.